Welcome back, everyone. This is a quick follow-up video to the 1995 Mazda Miata stereo that I had worked on for a gentleman. I think it was Connor. I have his name written down somewhere. Doesn't matter. But anyway, this is a follow-up to that. Now, this is a stereo that you'll find in as an OEM stereo in most of the, actually almost all but the highest trim levels of the 1990 to 1995 Mazda Miatas. And this stereo comes in two forms. You get it with or without a CD player. This is a Panasonic or Matsushita product. It has two different model names. This one's an 1161, and it also comes marked as a Panasonic 1267. The CD players in these, they are hit or miss. They really are, and I've decided to make a change to my business offerings. I will offer an attempted CD player repair, but it will be a mandatory charge whether it works or not, because it is costly to me to replace the often failed capacitors on these boards, only to find out that there's something else going on. What I've been able to do with this particular stereo, I was able to get the CD player to spin, but it won't read the discs. So there are other issues at play, and I do not have the resources to troubleshoot them. I just don't have it. I don't have the electrical engineering experience, I'm being honest with you, to try to figure out what's going on. And if it turns out that the laser diode is faulty, which it can very well be, I don't have parts to repair it. With the Pioneers, on the other hand, I have an almost, I would say 90% repair rate on those. Simply tweaking the power on the laser diode gets them going almost every time. And that's why I pretty much offer that as like a, not really a freebie, but if you're going to send me your radio for other work, I'm going to go ahead and do that for you no matter what. If it doesn't work. If it works, we're going to leave it alone. But with these Panasonics, it is time consuming and resource hungry to replace every one of these electrolytic capacitors. This one has been done. I can tell because of that yellow zip tie. And it's not working. Now, I do not have a schematic for these. I do not have piles and piles of parts for these radios. So I'm going to just call it, here's what I'll be offering for all future customers. I will offer a CD player recap surface where we'll replace the capacitors, but you'll have to pay me whether it works or not, because I have to buy these capacitors from my supplier, and they aren't, they're inexpensive, but they're not free. They cost money. I don't know what that charge will be, but it is, again, it's time consuming, and it's, yeah, it is what it is. I am willing to give it a try, but you'll have to pay me as part of the service for that job. Now, cassette decks, 100% success rate on these cassette decks, getting them working again. I have had very good luck with these. So if you've got one of these Panasonics with a bad cassette deck, it doesn't read, doesn't pull the disc or tape in, it's got a tape stuck in it, no worries, I can fix those. In fact, I do have a couple of spare decks as well. And so that's no problem there. The face plates, not really a lot goes wrong with these. The lamps go bad, so we do relamp these now. I will relamp them for you. That is a separate charge. If you've got a bad LCD, I won't touch it. If the LCD is bad, then this one is bad. This one doesn't look bad, but it is. It's got a couple of segments out, which means that there is a contact strip bonding issue, and I do not have the means to repair those right now. Not right now. Maybe in the future. We'll see what happens. So here's where I'm going with this. And I'm open and honest with all of my viewers and my customers. I will even show you what I do. So that way either you can justify what I'm charging, or you can go ahead and try it yourself. Adding a Bluetooth module. I wanted to catch this video after I have determined what exactly I need to do. So for a dead CD player, no worries. We'll convert that CD player over to a Bluetooth receiver. Not a problem. Let me show you what I'm doing. Let's get some light on this. So when you pull the CD player apart, this is your 8-pin, how many pins is this? It's 13-pin pigtail. You need all this. You need the pigtail, you need the CD, you need at least the baseboard. That's all you need. You can pull the mechanism out. In fact, that's what I'm doing because I have to make room in here. So here's the deal. You've got to cut some wires. Not a problem. Your Drock Bluetooth module comes with 2 of these cables. One of them is for audio in, one for audio out. And you're going to cut your, so you got your left and your right channel in and out. So your violet and your lime is your left output and left input. And those get split up as you see here. So this one here is your audio. I mark one of these so I know which one's which. This is your audio. This is going to the amplifier of the stereo. And this one's coming from the amplifier. And I think some of the stuff in this schematic is mismarked. I figured that out the hard way, but it's not exactly correct. So this one, which is supposed to be amplifier in, I had to reverse them, but one of them, whatever the case may be, one of them, you've got your left positive and your right positive go to your, so left goes to lime, right goes to blue. And according to the schematic, lime and blue are inputs, left and right inputs. So those are supposed to go back to the amplifier. Now audio comes out of the amplifier into this harness through the other 2. You've got your fuchsia and violet. So your violet is your left, your fuchsia is your right. Now again, those are all, because we're dealing with audio signals, those are all positives. They all go to a common ground. And simply plugging this in to here, boom, 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 all set. Now, here's where things get a little dicey. You've got at least 2 12-volt positives coming into this board from this harness. And to make it a cleaner install, I don't run wires externally. I don't do that. I use whatever is coming out of this harness. You've got 2 chassis grounds. You can pick one. There are these 2 tan ones on the back, on this side here. But you've got at least 2 or 3 positives. This black wire here, this black wire right here that I'm pointing to, that is your battery positive. You do not want to use that. The battery positive goes straight to the battery and is not switched, so it's on all the time. You do not want this module running at all times. You want it switched with the ignition. None of these wires are switched with the stereo power, which makes this a little bit not so great. I would rather have a switched positive that you can just shut the stereo off if you want to power down this module. The way I wire these, I'm actually using this white wire right here. This white wire, according to my schematic, is TNS positive. The one that's supposed to be accessory positive, which is the green wire right here, that's the green wire, that wire is supposed to be accessory positive, but it's not. Maybe I'm gonna have to double check my my pin numbers, but that wire is your lighting wire. So I had this all working pretty good, and I was getting a weird interference, which usually indicates that there's something unclean going into that power. So that power, that lighting power source is regulated somehow, and it's putting extra noise, it's putting noise into this unit. Not only that, but if I shut the lights off, the module shuts off. Kind of a neat feature. You know, you could actually reset the module just by turning your lights on and off while you're driving. But not very practical because you'd have to be driving with your lights on at all times. I don't like it. So what I did was we went ahead and we powered it off of the white wire. Now that is your accessory positive. All of my wiring connections are on the back of the board. And before I button this all up, I'm going to throw some hot snot on here, hot glue, just to keep things in place. Prevent any movement, any chafing, shorting, etc. It's totally legit. Everything gets shrink tubed. Here's your audio connections, and everything is getting shrink tubed in just a few minutes, including the entire module. Once I confirm and verify everything is working, then that gets shrink tubed. That's going to get mounted into here with a double-sided adhesive product. I haven't decided which one I'm going to use yet. This is only the second one I've done, and in both cases the CD players were not fixable. So we used the CD player box. The faceplate will remain. All of this circuitry remains. The faceplate will actually be lit up with the stereo. So this is going to get new lights. This is going to get new lights. Actually, this is the one we're using. New bulbs on both. I found that this faceplate is in better condition than this one. So I'm going to swap the boards back and forth. This one also, being a Panasonic 1267, is more correct for the model year. It's a 95. In the early 90s, they had the old National logo with the Japanese writing on them. So this faceplate is from like a 90, 91. This is from a 95. So we'll make sure that that's correct. And I got to send this guy a bill. Everything's going to be buttoned up today, I hope. And I should have enough. I just ordered all new bulbs, so I should be good there. Good times. Really good times. So just wanted to make that quick little video. Yes, just like every Panasonic that comes across my desk, this one had a million broken solder joints. And the AM tuner doesn't work at all. I mean, you can't make this shit up. I don't like these Panasonics now. I've decided, I've changed my stance. I've had more problems with these than any other radio. Well, the only other one I work on is a Pioneer. But no, seriously, I have a lot of problems with these. They just aren't very well engineered, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, a lot of issues with these. So future customers, if you're watching this video, this is all I'm offering. If you've got one with a dead CD player, we'll turn it into a Bluetooth receiver and you'll have a nice, the aesthetics will be there. I actually do put a block off plate here, so you cannot accidentally put in a CD. We don't want this to turn into a coin box. I use aluminum bar stock, and I actually cut it and trim it, and yeah, it's actually quite slick. We do not want you to use these as a coin box or a repository for CDs. Oh, whoop, it's gone. It's just gonna fall right in. We don't want that. So we block off the whole thing, and yeah, that way that's not an issue anymore. Anyway, so let me get this guy's stereo buttoned up, send him an invoice, and get paid. I've got another radio coming, another Pioneer. I love the Pioneers, although they're hard work. The Pioneers are a lot of work, not gonna lie. The Panasonics are a single belt cassette deck. The Pioneers have 3. The Pioneers also usually have bad capacitors, so I have to comb over the whole thing, you know, looking for leaking capacitors. I don't replace them all, only the ones that are leaking, because there's not really any need for that. I'd have to charge more, and I'm not going to do that. I have raised my prices. Unfortunately, I have had to raise my prices across the board, because I'm looking at my financials, and it's just not making money right now. I have basically taken in almost as much money as I've had to spend. It's kind of, when you put it all into a spreadsheet, it's kind of nerve-wracking, because you can see it right there. You can see the numbers. Numbers don't lie. I'm looking at what I spend on tools and supplies. Yeah, it's not very profitable. That having been said, I don't do this to get rich. If I did, I wouldn't be doing this. But it would be nice to make a profit. Shrink tubing is the way to go. You don't want anything hanging out, getting chafed and short-circuited. I often joke that I don't own a roll of electrical tape or duct tape. It's not entirely true. I just don't use them very often. I just don't use those products because they just aren't long-lasting products, and they can cause problems down the road. So we've got that. Again, I also shrink tube the power leads, and we're going to run those alongside here. Now, electrical tape does have a place in the world. I just don't really use it very often. I find that it's messy. Oh shit! Did this already start to shrinky dink? No. Okay. I thought for a second I got heat on this, and oh, that would not be good. I think I did. So we just run these into here. The very last thing we do is we shrink this down. And this protects the module from shorting out against anything. It will never short out and cause more problems. So the one that's marked, that is actually going into AUX, auxiliary. Okay, and then this other one here, you can always reverse. If you get it wrong the first time, you can always switch them back. Now I gotta do a quick little test. I gotta shut my phone off. All right, we're good to go. Just passed my diagnostic test, or my initial test procedure. So we just kind of shrink this down. Make it permanent. So 1 inch, by the way, 1 inch shrink tube. But yeah, when you start a venture like this, you never know how it's going to go. You never know how many customers you're going to wind up with. You just don't know. And also, what do you charge for the service? So that is very much in flux. Trying to balance the demand for this kind of work with what it costs me in raw materials and whether it's worth my time. A lot of factors go into determining that kind of stuff. It's very real, and a lot of businesses go through the very same headaches that I'm going through now when they start up for the first time. It's kind of eye-opening, you know, to see how this all is going to pan out, you know. So what I use, or what I'm going to use, is a 3M dual lock product. And again, every little thing that I use costs money. Everything I use, every product, every stitch of material, every ounce of solder I use, or every gram of solder I use, it all adds up. And I'm looking at my balance sheet. Okay, this is what I spent, this is what I got in, and it's like, yikes. I'm not saying this to like dump my problems onto my loyal viewers and my customers. I just try to be as transparent as I can in my adventures in doing this, starting this service for people. Just trying to be as transparent as I can, you know. So if you are considering hiring me to do your stereo, understand that I'm not trying to, if you don't like my pricing, I'm not trying to rip anybody off. I just need to justify this, because remember, I have to pay taxes on all of this. All the money I bring in, less expenses, all my profit gets taxed. So, you know, for it to be worth my time, it has to be worth my time, you know. So that's why, you know, that's why I'm going to start being more selective with the kinds of work that I take in, because honestly, if it's going to be time consuming and there's not going to be a lot of positive results, why do it, right? That's kind of where I'm at. So the Panasonic stuff, it's going to stop. Well, it's not going to stop, but I'm going to change and be more selective with the types of jobs I take on. You know, I had someone recently contact me. They flooded their car and they wanted me to fix their radio, and I pretty much said no. But he's like, well, it still turns on, but you know, if when he gets back to me again and asks me again, because I'm gonna say, I'm sorry, I can't do that. It sounds to me like I'm going to be spending a lot of time chasing gremlins than I am going to be doing what I am here to do. So don't send me flooded radios, guys. I don't want them. Not even for parts. Yeah. But you know, the funny thing is, when it comes to certain stereos, like the Pioneers, even a flooded radio actually has some parts in it that could be useful. So I get a lot of requests for replacement knobs, and I have to turn those requests down because I do not have, nor can I get them. I have a set of knobs. They're not for sale. You know, they're for the case where somebody wants me to fix a radio and it's missing a volume knob. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not for sale, unless it's for an actual customer project. If you want to pay me to refinish your faceplate, sure, I'll sell you a knob. In which case, I will sell the knobs to the customer, but they would be part of a bigger project, not just, you know, you get what I'm saying? Good. There is a strap that goes in the back here. Oh, there it is. Put that strap back. But it'll be nice to get this one off the bench. You know, every single radio that I touch, I learn something new, or I get a little bit better each time. It's nice that way. You know, this is not an uncharted business opportunity or idea, but it's certainly not a very common one, and there's a lot to learn. Like, for example, I'm not going to replace this lamp even if it's burned out, because this will do nothing. This does nothing right now. This screen. This board, for the most part, is doing absolutely nothing. But what it is doing is it's sending voltage over to the control panel, which also does nothing. But it's sending power to the control panel so the lights will come on. At least that's the idea. Although I think in the for the Panasonics, I believe the control panel lighting stays off unless the CD player is being used. They're not as fully integrated as you might think. I gotta get some hot snot on that. So let me get my glue gun. Whenever I do any wiring on somebody's stereo or make any changes like that, I try to be as forward-thinking as I can. And I try to think about, okay, how is this going to fail? What is going to happen, you know, a year, 6 months, 5 years down the road? Will this short out and cause a problem? And even though we have fuses to protect us in the fuse boxes, what if the customer puts a bigger fuse in, or stuffs a penny in there, as they might say? You know, is this going to cause a problem? You know, melted wiring, etc. So I try to make sure that anything that I do, all my wiring, all my connections, are protected in some way from short circuits or from getting loose and falling apart. I'm finding that the radios themselves are already in pretty tough shape. I don't want to make things any worse. But this right here, this is a plug and play. You could take this module right here, once put it back together. This will work in any Pioneer stereo. And I actually have enough parts. I could probably make one of these and sell it by itself. You could add this to any of these Pioneers. Panasonics, I'm sorry. I wish they didn't start with the same letter, because like a JVC versus a Panasonic or something like that. Whatever. You could take a base model, cassette only Miata and just add this. There's a Bluetooth module. Boom, ready to go. That would be a neat idea. If I could get enough dead CD players, find them like in a flea market or something, I could actually offer that. No need to send me your stereo. Just send me your CD player as a core, and I'll modify it. This is high temp glue. This should not melt under normal use, even in the conditions of a car. Yeah, just what I just did there. Just coat all this with glue. That will just protect that wiring, those connectors, from any outside influences. So here's my faceplate. We got to redo all the lighting in here. There's only a couple of bulbs, and it's not too bad. And we'll just snap this back on. I'm going to protect the unit by making myself another CD player blanking plate. But that's what it looks like internally when it's all said and done. It's pretty clean, not going to go anywhere. Nothing's going to short out. I think that's pretty decent. And no modifications needed to the base unit. We just need to finish the job. We need to do the lighting. We need to do, we got to get all that done. All right. Well, I had to take it all back apart again. There is another solder break somewhere in this system. Every Panasonic that comes my way, same problems. Now, this particular solder break affects the cassette deck mechanism. So when I go to put a tape in, sometimes the unit just shuts off. The motor will not drive the tape in. It's like like a breaker flipped, and I have to turn the radio. So it shuts the radio off and does not actuate the motor transport mechanism. I'm sorry, the cassette deck transport mechanism. So there's another break. Now, if I take the unit and I go like that, it works. Do it again, it doesn't work. Welcome to hell. That's just how things go with these radios. Only the Panasonics, not the Pioneers. And I've stated this many times before, but I have a theory as to why this happens, and I believe it's because Panasonic used lead-free solder. And it was a fairly new concept in 1990 when they designed these units. It was a new idea. It was the future. This is how things are going to be. We're going to do lead-free. Good for the environment, good for the kids, good for everybody, right? Well, unfortunately, lead-free solder, at least early lead-free solder, wasn't terribly durable. And it developed little stress cracks in areas where, there was a lot of movement. And that is why we have these problems. Little itty-bitty stress cracks all over the place. And my goal is to find them all and play whack-a-mole and get this radio off my bench. Because right now, everything's fixed. Everything that it was brought in here for is fixed. We got new lamps, we got Bluetooth, we got cassette deck is all ready to go. It actually sounds pretty good. But we're not out of the woods. Because now we have another problem with the chassis. And so what I do is I sit here listening to podcasts as I kind of examine every square inch of this board on the back side of it, looking for solder breaks. That's what I do. That's what I do, and that's what I have to do. Find the breaks and tack them with a welder, add a little solder to them, and boom. I already went through the amplifier side. Now, it could be on the amplifier board, but I'm taking this, since I'm already here, we're taking it all apart just to confirm that there is no other breakage. We know that the AM radio, the AM tuner doesn't work, and it's because of a break that I may not have found yet. It's kind of how things go. Chances are the brakes are going to be found near these connector strips. But now that I'm gonna have to go through it one more time, inch by inch, piece by piece, until I find a little bastard. All right, peace out.
Who owed me a favor?
I think we figured it
I
out.
made an appointment with Portland and stopped at the Federal Building on the
Now
way to give my acquaintance the note Bill Musaraka had given me.
if we give it a
The room
little
number
snack.
I got from Portland belonged to a small auditorium.
So what it'll do is it'll cut out the motor. It won't do anything. It won't pull the tape in and it just shuts off. But
Silver images fluttering on a square screen at the
We got
far
it.
end. I found a seat in time to watch Robert Mitchum and Jane Greer careening down a country road in a big car with bug-eyed headlamps toward a roadblock. Spotting the armed men in uniform, Jane Greer said, "Dirty double crossing," and shot Mitchum, who sent the car into a spin while the woman traded fire.
I think we nailed it. It's all ready to go. Take a look at the blocking plate I made. So what I actually did for this, I didn't have any more aluminum stock left, so I found a better idea. I used 3 or 4 layers of foil tape and layered it on the face of the metal, this thing right here. Oh wait, it's on this one. Took one of these right here, that metal piece, and we just layered it with tape. That stuff is pretty strong, especially when you laminate it, and then we put a layer of vinyl electrical tape to kind of hide that slot. But she's working.
After she was killed in the car,
I polished up the volume and tone control knobs. I use a buffing wheel for that. I buffed the displays as best I could to make them look good, and we relamped the whole thing. Now, this is what sucks about these Panasonics. The lighting is brighter on the CD player than it is on the main unit, even though they're the same bulb, same voltage. I don't really care too much for the lighting choices they made back in the day. It's not very bright, but I guess it's not supposed to be. Let's turn the lights off, and the lights go off. Now, when you turn the lights off, the LCD should get brighter, because the voltage, it runs on 2 voltages, all right? So it switches to a higher voltage with the lighting off, and that seems to work pretty good. All we got to do now is put the brackets back on, pack her up, and get her the hell out of here once I get paid. I sent the bill over. This cassette deck works great. I'm going to put, this is the tape that came with it. It's the Phil Collins tape. I can't demonstrate that for you, unfortunately, because the world sucks, but I'm going to make sure that gets back into the unit. Now, a viewer commented that I should get a cassette deck speed regulation tape. Yes, I should. Because you can adjust the motor speed easily on these. It's just I have a cassette deck over here. This one is ready to go into the next unit I touch. But on the back of the motor, there's a little potentiometer right there. And that is how you adjust the speed. And what you're supposed to do is use a tape that has a like a calibrated frequency record, like a tone at a particular frequency. And you can actually use a smartphone with a frequency, what the hell do they call that? It's just a little app that tells you what the frequency of a particular tone is. And you just adjust the speed so that, let's say it's a 33 hertz or whatever, 33 kilohertz frequency. You just adjust the speed when the iOS device or Android device picks up that exact frequency, and that's where you leave it. I should do that. In fact, I'm planning on doing that. I just don't have it right now. But this thing is working great. I'm going to just switch over to Bluetooth real quick, make sure that's working as advertised. All right, just did a couple tests with it, and it's working great. Now, this video is just as much for potential clients as it is for existing ones. For example, the owner of this stereo. Now, because the Bluetooth module is tied into the accessory position on your ignition switch, and that's the leg I pulled off of. This is your tape, by the way. You're going to get this back. Because of that, if your device fails to pair to the Bluetooth module, you will have to shut the car off, turn it back on again, and turn your Bluetooth set your phone to connect to that device. It is just a glitch, an undocumented feature, whatever you want to call it, of this module. What I mean is, if you don't connect to it within the first minute or two, let's say you have your device set to Bluetooth off, okay? So I get in my car. I got my phone in my hand. I turn Bluetooth off. I turn the car on. I turn the radio on. I listen to a cassette. And I'm rocking around, and I'm like, oh, you know what? I want to listen to a podcast, okay? Now, if I turn the Bluetooth on my phone, it will not hook up to the Bluetooth module automatically. You actually have to power cycle it. That's just how these devices work. This is probably the 15th or so I've done, and that's just how they work. Even in my own car. The only difference is when I do these on the Pioneers, all you have to do is shut the radio off. So, yeah, it's just think about what you want to listen to before you get in the car. Do you want to listen to a tape, or do you think you're going to switch to your phone at some point? Now, here's the other thing. If I get in the car and I pair my phone to this, I turn the Bluetooth on my phone and I pair it to the DROC module, what's going to happen is I can start the car, it's paired, I'm listening to it, and then I decide to go to a tape, or I want to listen to the tuner. I go on my phone and I shut Bluetooth off. Now, when you turn the Bluetooth on and you pair it to the device, to the stereo, it takes over the audio for all sources. So you won't be able to hear the tuner or the cassette deck. It just takes over. So if you're driving along and you're like, oh, I want to listen to the radio, there's a newscast or a sports broadcast, and you're just cruising down the highway, what you've got to do is go to your phone and quickly turn off Bluetooth. Just click it off. The Bluetooth module in here will switch to, it will switch the audio source automatically to the tuner and the cassette deck, and you can listen to your broadcast. As long as you don't shut the car off at that point, you can turn your phone back on 20 minutes later, turn your Bluetooth on in your phone, and it clicks right in, and it takes over again. But for some reason, and they're all like, this isn't because it's broken or anything like that. For some reason, if I don't link my phone to it initially when turning the car on and setting out, it will not pair to it at all until I power cycle it. That's just how they are. It's not great, but this is the best module that I've been able to find that serves the purpose of these conversions. So that's it for now. Mr. Was it Connor? I gotta double check that name. Let me double check it. I think I have his original box right here. Let's see. Whose radio was this? Yeah, Mr. Connor. Last name, not first name. This thing's ready to go. I'm pretty satisfied with how it turned out. I'm going to clean this up a little better too. But the only thing, this is the faceplate. This was the better of the two faceplates. There's a little bit of discoloration here. Chances are somebody cleaned this many years ago or whatever and didn't use the right cleaning products. But I tried to buff this out with a buffing wheel. It wouldn't come out. The other faceplate that I could have used is this one. And this actually was one I have on hand. And it's got a little more degradation of that overlay. It's not as pretty. And not only that, but yours is a 95. So it should have a Panasonic logo on it, whereas the other one does not. I actually have two faceplates for the cassette CD player, exactly the same. And so there you go. And I buffed your control knobs, made them look shiny, and I'm gonna put the side brackets on right now, and we'll get this sucker boxed up so you can enjoy it for the rest of the summer. And hope you are satisfied with my workmanship. Now you know what was done and how and why. Yes, there was definitely a few breaks on that board, but the AM tuner still doesn't work. Don't know why. I think there's a second one I've actually seen that has had that problem actually. But yeah, it still works. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick it up.
Up close, he was older than looking back at the room.
And I'm going to drop it. It still works. So we fixed that. Lot of solder breaks. I did figure out why it's happening though, and I'm going to show you in my next demonstration why. I figured out why this keeps happening to these. And it has to do with the design of the board. So if you really want to see this, I'll show you. Let's turn on the soldering iron. All right, let's take a look. Now this is an amplifier board that I gave up on after trying to make heads or tails of all the modifications that were done to it. But what I found, let me see if I can find a good way to show this. What I found is they drilled the holes too large on the on some of these component mounting areas. So the holes are drilled so large that it requires a lot of solder to fill the gaps in, and I don't usually see this a lot on these types of things. One particular example. See, this one's got a bunch of them. All right, you can see there's little circles. You probably can't see it on the camera, but there's circles around the legs on these components. Those circles, from what I'm finding, indicate a stress crack, and they're everywhere. But if I were to desolder one of these, what you're going to find is there's a lot. The holes are just enormous. Yeah, here, perfect example. Let's take a look at this. So I just took one at random here. See, look at this right here. Look at the size of that hole. It's enormous. And they're all drilled that way. So the component, you have to fill a lot of solder in to fill that hole. And we're not talking about leaded solder here. We're talking about lead-free potentially. And that lead-free solder, it's brittle. So you're asking it to do too much. I mean, that does not need to be that big. You look at the size of the leg that's going into it. It's ridiculous. So yeah, I think I know why this is happening to these. They drilled the holes too large, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they used lead-free solder. Now, I have not tested the solder for lead content, but I can easily do that. I would just need to buy a lead paint testing kit, and that should do the trick. Just shave a little bit off and put the and apply the lead. We didn't even have to do that. Just take the leaded lead paint test kit and apply it to some of these joints, and we'll see what it does. I may end up doing that at some point. In the meantime, oops, I need to shut that off, but might as well. Shut our power off. This thing's ready to go. I want to put that tape in it so I don't forget. I like to give customers their shit back, you know. Yep. Drew it right in. Turned it on. Nice, nice, nice. Hit stop. Turn it off. Move it up and out. Have a great day.